Alzheimer's Alternative Therapies Part 3. We're going to turbocharge the criteria that we have of things that you can do right away to protect your brain and keep yourself brain healthy. And then we can talk about what to do to literally, in some cases, reverse Alzheimer's after a diagnosis. Lots of doctors are doing this. There's a lot of great information. Good news number one. Alzheimer's is preventable. Not in all cases, but it is preventable. That's good news number one. Good news number two, if somebody's diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, you can make that better in many cases, not all, but many cases. And these are non-drug means. These are alternative means. That's good news number two. Good news number three, the same protocol that we're going to talk about right now is the same protocol that you can make yourself heart healthy, that you can significantly reduce your chance of type 2 diabetes. Reductions in arthritis, reductions in most cancers. So this protocol you can apply to all portions of the body, but particularly we're going to talk about brain here today. First thing is a medical disclaimer. As we get into this, we're going to be talking about nutrition changes and exercise changes and stress changes and so forth. Talk to your doctor first before you do any changes whatsoever, particularly if you're on medication, particularly if you're on blood sugar diabetic medications, because if you start doing these programs, you might have a big drop in your blood sugar. So you have to talk to your doctor first, particularly if you're on medications. And remember not to change any of your medication whatsoever until you talk to your doctor. Now, with that said, and by the way, we're also not forming any sort of a doctor-patient relationship during these programs. That being said, if you're going to make these changes, get your doctor on board and say, hey, I want to make these changes to protect my brain, and I want to make my blood sugar better, and I want my heart to be better, and so forth, right? So engage with your doctor and nurses and so forth. Why not do that, right? Okay. The bad news about this program that we talk about is it takes work. It takes work. I've introduced Dr. Dale Bredesen's protocol about reversing Alzheimer's, the RECODE program, to hundreds of people. And I've had one set of patients, one family, actually do the program. With that one family, the woman was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. The husband was, we'll call him the caretaker, if you will. So the two of them and their son engaged in Dr. Bredesen's RECODE protocol. And sure enough, the husband noticed improvements in her cognition. Not just slowing of the condition, but actually improvements. Her memory got better, her engagement in life got better, her ability to do simple things and activities daily living got better. That's only one family that did it, because I guess the bad news is it does take work. We have to change habits, but I think the fruits of the labor are worth it. It's hard work and it's worth it. Why do we do hard work? Because we're looking for results on the other side. If we just sit, if we have the SAD diet, the standard American diet, and we don't move our bodies, not only do our bodies decay, but our brain decays with it. So I guess that's the bad news. Here's the protocol. I've gone through the protocol and we're going to dress up some of these things as we go along. Number one at the top is exercise. Dr. Peter Attia, peterattiamd.com, his new book, Outlive. He quotes in the book and does this on podcasts. When you look at exercise is number one. Dr. Dale Bredesen and others say that exercise is the first thing you want to do in combination with number two, nutrition. Exercise, but in particular resistance exercise, weight training exercise, body weight exercise, things where you have to work on top of cardio exercise. Cardio exercise is good. A lot of older folks will walk if they have the ability. They'll walk and they'll play pickleball, but they don't do resistance exercise. They're not lifting weights and using bands and balls and going to boot camps and whatever else, okay? Resistance exercise. So how do we determine someone's strength? An easy way to do it that's reproducible from one group to another, one population to another, is grip strength, okay? Now that doesn't mean, and this is important now, that doesn't mean that we all get the hand grippers and make our grip strength strong and we're good. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But grip strength is an indicator of your overall body strength. Got it? So it's one simple test to know where somebody is, grip strength. For the older people with the highest grip strength when they're older compared to the ones that have the lowest grip strength, there is a 70% risk reduction in Alzheimer's dementia with exercise. Strength training. We've got to get strong now and stay strong. That's the thing. You have to continue doing resistance exercise. It's good for your body, it's good for your joints, and it's really good for your brain. 70%. Now, if you have 100% risk reduction, you don't get X disease, right? 70% is huge. It's a massive number by being one of the ones that has the strongest grip strength compared to the ones with the weakest. So it's exercise. Cardio exercise is also part of the program as well. Number 2 is nutrition. We've covered this for 25 years on this program. We know what to do. Don't have the standard American diet. Stay away from processed foods as best you possibly can. Eat real foods. The Dr. Dale Bredesen, the Dr. Heather Sanderson, the Dr. David Perlmutter programs, they talk about a kind of a modified keto diet, which is a lot of plant foods, some animal foods, healthy fats, not bad fats. You can find this stuff easily on all of their websites, more coming up in the resources section. But you have to eat real food that you would recognize, that grandma would recognize. Try to do that 80% of the time. And they call it the 12-3. They call it the 12-3, which is you eat within 12 hours of the day. And you also, and this is important, you try to eat, not to eat anything 3 hours before bedtime. Okay? How do you make that happen? Well, let's say you go to bed at 10. Back that up 3 hours. You're done eating at 7. After 7, don't eat anything until you go to bed at 10. I go to bed at 11. Well, you should be going to bed earlier. I go to bed at 11, back that up. Nothing after 8. It's hard, right? It's hard. Yep, it's hard. Yep. Get a little hungry, you want a snack. Nope. You sit and watching your favorite shows like Health Source as an example, and you binge watching me, you want a snack. Nope. Nothing after that. Huge, massive improvements in blood sugar and reductions in heart problems and cancer problems and of course now Alzheimer's problems. 12-3. Eat within 12 hours, 3 hours before bedtime, nothing. Okay? So that's what that program is all about. This has been well established, well covered. Sleep. We have to be better sleepers. Most of us are not getting enough, and most of us are not on a regular sleep schedule. I've done a couple of wonderful shows on how to improve sleep habits. Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Bredesen, Dr. Attia, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Dr. Scott Fuller, me, all of these practitioners that are involved with Dr. Sanderson are talking about the importance of sleep habits and sleep regulation and all the tricks and tactics that we can do to do that. So that's number 3. Number 4 is stress. Huge problem. We know now I'm not talking about acute stress. I'm not talking about things that are heading you a deadline here, or some pressure over there, some situations there. I'm talking about chronic, ongoing stress, the rat wheel, right? And there are programs, institutions, people, seminars, classes, therapists, all kinds of things that you can engage with. If that's your thing, you're like, I'm pretty good at everything else, but I got to deal with this chronic stress problem. Get engaged. Look out there for programs, meditation, mindfulness, and so forth, yoga, that can help reduce the chronic stress burden that you have. Number 5 is supplements. We cannot out-supplement a bad diet. Okay, that's why it's down the list, not high on the list. We're all looking for that pill, right? Dr. Bredesen talks about this. Dr. Perlmutter talks about this. With that magic pill, we're waiting for the next new breakthrough drug. More on that in a minute. That's going to solve our problem, take care of our heart problem, take care of our cancer problem, take care of our Alzheimer's problem and our diabetic problem. Not going to happen. We pour hundreds of billions of dollars in this over the many years. And for most of these chronic disease problems, we don't have it. It's just not there. Well, I take a medication for blood pressure, and now my blood pressure is normal. Awesome, you've got to get that blood pressure down. But if we take that blood pressure medication away, where are you? Blood pressure goes right back up again. So it didn't go to the source of the problem. I have high blood sugar, and I take this medication or 2 or 3. Now my blood sugar is normal. I'm good to go. Many doctors say, no, not so fast. No, you're not. We take those medications away, blood sugar goes back up again. It's not going after the source. It's just suppressing symptoms temporarily and making the numbers look a little bit better temporarily. Same thing with the medication lecanemab that got all the press recently. And it's saying, well, this is the first Alzheimer's drug that's really making an indication and 27% effectiveness. Well, if you look at it, says Dr. Dale Bredesen, it's 27% of the people that take it. So 1/4 of the people that take it notice a slowing of the progression of Alzheimer's with big expense. It's not it. It's not it. We can see that the lifestyle intervention that we're talking about on our list right now has proven now in the medical literature, Dr. Bredesen's article in the Journal of Alzheimer's, Dr. Sanderson's article in 2023 in the Journal of Alzheimer's is actually showing that the people are getting better. Their cognitive scores get better by the lifestyle interventions. Better, not just a slowing of it, but actually improvements that they can document now, and now it's being published in the literature. That's pretty powerful stuff. And more on that in just a moment. So targeted supplements, right? Everybody here is talking about omega-3 fish oil and some vitamin D and some magnesium and probiotics and B vitamins and several others, vitamin C maybe, and there can be some other targeted anti-inflammatory supplements. Curcumin comes to mind, what goes on. But I've been talking about these supplements and I've been taking them myself and having my patients take them for 24 years now, with the top of them being omega-3 fish oil, B complex vitamins with some antioxidants mixed in there, coenzyme Q10, alpha lipoic acid, vitamin D with vitamin K, and magnesium, just to name those 4. We're going a long way with just taking those 4 with not a whole lot of expense, and those can be very powerful. And I remember Dr. Rhonda Patrick saying recently that one of the low-hanging fruits here is DHA and EPA from omega-3 fish oil. Most people are not going to eat enough of the oily fish, the cold water fish, to get enough omega-3s, and that's why most people recommend supplementation. And you want to get your supplementation from trusted companies and so forth. I put number 6, water, by itself in its own category because we don't want to be drinking any calories, okay? So you look at any of the work here and you look at Dr. Robert Lustig, his book Fat Chance, and then his follow-up, The Hacking of the American Mind. You look at Fat Chance because he's a pediatric endocrinologist. He says, we just can't be drinking juice. And then Dr. Perlmutter will talk about that, and Dr. Bredesen and Dr. Patrick and Dr. Sanderson and Dr. Fuller. Don't be drinking any juice, fruit juice, sport drinks unless you're some sort of an endurance athlete. You don't need these things. Don't drink any calories. And then don't drink the diet versions because there's other brain chemicals in there that can be really detrimental to your health. So no diet soda, no diet teas, and so forth. These are my recommendations and the recommendations of the other folks here. So don't drink any calories. You can eat a little bit of fruit, more on that in the nutrition section. You can eat some fruit. Fruit's there naturally. You don't want to be tanking a lot of fruit down either. You want to be going heavier vegetables. If you have no blood sugar regulation problems, we can go 3-to-1 vegetables to fruit. If you do have blood sugar dysregulation problems, we want to go something like 10-to-1 vegetables to fruit. What does that mean? Kind of like 1 piece of fruit per day, 1 serving of fruit per day, and that's it, right? Got it? So a lot more vegetables is where you want to go. And that's one of the dietary recommendations that I've always made for years and years. The game each day is not only not snacking after dinner, but then the game each day is how many vegetables can I get into my body at each meal and each snack. So water, a lot of older people, when they're having urinary issues, frequency with urination, trouble getting out of bed at night, they really don't want to drink water and they stay away from it all day because they just don't want to have to get up at night to go to the bathroom, right? I can totally appreciate that. That's why we made that video back here in this show called Water Rules, where you front load the day, you drink your water in the morning, in the afternoon, taper it off and shut it down a couple of hours before bed, and usually they're pretty good. But we have to get people, and if you're having a family member that needs that, they're having some cognitive impairment, they're having some memory problems and so forth, caretakers, people that are caring for them, need to make sure that they're kept on track with their water starting right from when they get up, and then going and pushing that through the day. Not to overload it, because you can definitely drink too much water as well, but the vast majority, 80%, whatever that number is, of people are not getting enough water in there as well. Okay, here's where we can really turbocharge the protocol. The protocol, those first 6, are in all of these references that I've been talking about here. Dr. Bredesen's Reversing Alzheimer's Protocol, Dr. Heather Sanderson's protocol with her work, Dr. David Perlmutter and all of his books and studies and programs, Dr. Peter Attia, Dr. Rhonda Patrick. All of these folks talk about those first 6, but the last 2 are kind of like our stars that we can really lift this up. Number 7 being chiropractic care. Well, are there any studies on chiropractic care for cognitive decline? Not that I'm aware of. However, listen to this. Now, we know, and some people have categorized Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes, right? Diabetes of the brain. Brain is not able to utilize sugar. Blood sugar dysregulation throughout the body is affecting the brain, right? Makes sense. And then blood flow to the brain. But we do know the studies that chiropractic work stimulating nerves that shut down the sympathetic nervous system increases blood flow to the brain after one treatment. So that increases blood flow to the brain. That sounds like an important thing. So that's why I'm putting a connection of consideration to include chiropractic care in part of your strategy here, right? And we also know that there's studies that chiropractic care reduces blood pressure. Well, how does that work? Are we unpinching the nerve to the heart? No, but we're activating nerves which shut down the sympathetic nervous system, allowing the parasympathetics to rise, and that's going to decrease blood pressure. A couple of good studies on that as well. See, so we have studies of increasing blood flow to the brain and decreasing sympathetic tone with chiropractic care. Sounds like a good addition here ongoing. That's what I do, and that's what I do in my office. Okay, and then number 8 is low-level laser therapy. Please, if you have missed my shows on low-level laser, this is important now. These are lasers, not LEDs, and they're low level, so we can shine them on the brain. We can't shine them in the eye, but I have brain laser protocols, been using it 18 years on myself and my patients. I've talked about very good concussion protocols where people are in bad ways. We add laser, they're doing great. So it already is showing me in my clinical experience of healing from concussion. What's concussion? Injured neurons. What's going on with dementia, Alzheimer's dementia? Injured neurons and connection systems. I'm going to add low-level laser to that list. Now we have a list of 8 things. So we want to be doing a multifactorial program here so we can get the best benefit. It's not going to just be taking fish oil. I'm going to take fish oil because that's easy to do, and I understand that. You got to do the big things. If people are going to do anything, they work with the first 2, right? You work with the first 2. You start there. How can we get exercise? Well, Dr. Fuller, I have a parent, grandparent, elderly person I'm working with. I'm a caretaker and so on and so forth. And these people, they're walking in with a walker. I'll do shows in the future, but I have a couple of patients in their 90s coming in walkers. They're like this. They're walking in like that. What kind of resistance exercise are we going to be able to do with them? They're walking in with a walker. And I have them sit on my table, and I am usually behind them with somebody else in front of them holding a resistance band, and I'm prompting them to pull up tall, and they're doing band rows. Okay? Here's a person in a walker, cognitive abilities aren't that great. They're not walking around, they're not walking for exercise, and I have them doing band rows. Okay? That's just one example of altering whatever we know of resistance exercise that you can do for people that have significant challenges on doing regular gym stuff. Thinking outside the box, we can get things done, you see? And these 2 men that I'm thinking of right now in their 90s, first of all, they came in like this because they're hurting, and they're not very happy because they're hurting a lot, right? And they come in like this, and after some chiropractic work, they start opening up like this, and they start feeling a little bit better, and then we get more of that. What's that doing for their nerve chemicals, right? okay? Great things. And so we get them start doing these band stuff in the office and at home and so on and so forth, okay? One of them, we actually took one man, again, in his 90s. We improved, again, just like this program here, we're seeing improvements in cognitive abilities, right? We have this man improve from a walker to a cane. That doesn't happen often, right? Usually we just see additional decline, and he's actually improving, and you best believe this improved too, right? So he's getting much happier, and now he smiles to me and says, hello, Dr. Fuller, and so forth. We was like this in the past, okay? So we can make those things. Here's Dr. Dale Bredesen talking about the program, saying, there is no single silver bullet for reversing cognitive decline, but what we have is a silver buckshot. This is the buckshot, this 8-pronged program here. It's a bunch of stuff that we have to go after. There's not just going to be one thing. Maybe there's one thing that you, if you don't have Alzheimer's, but you're looking to protect your brain 20, 30, 40, 50, 70 years from now. One thing you're like, yeah, I got to do this, or I got to do that. I got to work on my sleep, or I got to get to the chiropractor, or yeah, my diet's not so good. Maybe there's one area that you really need some focus, and some others you have already covered. Great, great. But that's the silver buckshot that he's talking about, a comprehensive, integrative approach to activate your body's incredible and innate ability to heal itself. Couldn't have said it any better, Dr. Bredesen. Dr. Heather Sanderson, you can look her up. She's easy to find. She's out in California. Naturopathic doctor. She's the founder of Marama, which is the first, as far as we know, the first residential care facility for the elderly, based on the Bredesen protocol. It's based in California. Catch this now, catch this. I was just talking with a patient today about this as well, and he says, this is what we need to do, right? So you can imagine, just like the Alzheimer's facilities that exist right now, which people tend to go in and they tend not to come out, right? This type of facility here is designed to implement the program that we're talking about here today, get the people improved, and send them home. You got it? They don't want to keep them. They want to send them home. So she's got the first center. She published an article in Journal of the Alzheimer's Disease in 2023. She's done a podcast with Dr. Bredesen many times. And the second center had just opened in Kansas, Wichita, Kansas, I believe it is. So as a sidebar, if you folks out there know people with some extra dough that want to really funnel and do something very constructive with extra money, we could set up facilities. Maybe we could do someone in the East Coast. Maybe we could do one in the Boston. I'm happy to be involved to set this up. And I bet to Dr. Sanderson, Dr. Bredesen, Dr. Perlmutter, and so forth, and all these other people that are doing this work would love to see additional centers. And maybe it's we take existing centers and implement the program. So maybe we don't have to build buildings and put people in. Maybe other facilities that already exist will already have the brick and mortar. We can break this program in there and see what we can do about it. Pretty interesting. So look up her information out there as well. Dr. David Perlmutter says, with our lifestyle choices, we control over 90% of the expression of the genes that code for health and longevity. He's talking about the epigenetic effects. This is 2023. I just listened to him at this time, November of 2023, saying this. And he's talking about the epigenetic effects of our lifestyle. You can't change your genes. You can't pick mom and dad different. But you can change the expression of your genes with your lifestyle over 90%. I completely agree with that statement, that you can change your genetic expression by changing your lifestyle with the program that we're talking about here. Let's see. Dr. Peter Attia in his book reminds us that if you have type 2 diabetes, you double the risk of cardiovascular disease, you double the risk of cancer, and you double the risk of neurodegenerative disease. So your neurodegenerative disease risk goes up twice if you get type 2 diabetes. And Dr. Peter Attia reminds us too that type 2 diabetes, the adult onset diabetes, is something like 99% preventable. 99. And I agree. It's something like that or more, because it's just completely lifestyle. So look at that. His book, Outlive, by the way, has a nice chapter on neurodegenerative diseases. And here's a couple of quotes in here that I wanted to mention to you. I actually think we know more about preventing Alzheimer's than we do about preventing cancer. That's a bold statement, right? And I agree. He talks about a patient here that he's working with. She cut out not only added sugar and highly refined carbohydrates, but also cut out alcohol. The single most powerful item in our preventive toolkit is exercise, which has a two-pronged impact on Alzheimer's disease risk. It helps maintain glucose homeostasis and it improves the health of our vasculature, as we talked about. Let me get into some references for you here. So some of them I've talked about in past programs. So you have The End of Alzheimer's by Dr. Dale Bredesen book. Great stuff, easy to find. You can look at his website, easy stuff, easy to find. Brainmaker is one of Dr. David Perlmutter's books. He's got many others, Brainwash and Drop Acid, which means drop your uric acid level. Great stuff. Okay. The Hacking of the American Mind, Robert Lustig. Alzheimer's disease, What If There Was a Cure by Mary Newport. But here's a couple of newer things I wanted to share with you. I mentioned Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Her website, foundmyfitness.com. She's done great podcasts with Dr. Peter Attia. You want to look at that information for sure. Dr. Peter Attia, I mentioned, he's easy to find and his book is great. Dr. Heather Sanderson, this is the first time I'm talking about her on this show. She's easy to find. MaramaExperience.com is that Marama live-in facility that I talked about. She also conducts the Reverse Alzheimer's Summit, which is an online summit of a bunch of thinkers, doctors, researchers, scientists, regular people that are looking into this. She's done it, I think, 3 years in a row now, and you can get into that summit if you wanted additional information. On other portions of my show, I've talked about The Brain's Way of Healing by Norman Doidge, a fantastic book. It, again, talks about ways to improve the healing of the brain through exercise, through low-level laser, through nutritional changes, and so forth. Here's another one. So, as some of you know, you can have your apolipoprotein profile checked. It gets complicated. I won't go into the details. You can look this up. But there's apolipoprotein E2, E3, E4. These are alleles that you can test for. E2 is a bit neuroprotective. E3 is neutral, if you have that. E4 is an increase in risk. When you have 2 copies of E4, which is a small number of the population, it's just a few percent if I remember correctly, you have a 12 times risk, a 12 times increase in risk of developing Alzheimer's dementia. If you just have 1 copy, you have a 2 to 3 times risk. Okay, so Julie Gregory started this website called apoe4.info, which talks about people that have the 2 copies. That's kind of where it's focused, although it's for anybody that wants to just protect their brain. So you want to take a look at that. And that's where she got into this, because she was 50 years old, got tested. She realized, oh my gosh, I have 2 copies. I need to work harder. I think we all need to work hard. I think we all need to do this program that I'm talking about right now to protect our brains. Even if you are ApoE2 and have 2 copies and you protect, you still got to protect your brain. So I think everybody needs to do it, but just if you have 2 copies of E4, you just need to work a little bit harder. Rhonda Patrick, Peter Attia, Heather Sanderson, Dale Bredesen, David Perlmutter. Make sure you look up his information, Mary Newport, and Robert Lustig's stuff. So this is the program. Here are the resources. Dig into this. I'll be doing follow-up shows with this in the future. I'm Dr. Scott Fuller. Thank you.